Hello, it's Ruthie. Welcome to my channel if you're new here, and welcome back if you've been here. Thanks for coming back. So I want to make this video today talking about social eating in regards to living with inflammatory bowel disease, even if it's undiagnosed, any poopy problems of any sort. If you've watched my videos in the past, then you have a general idea of my health history. But if you haven't, I highly recommend you go back and watch some of my videos. I have a whole playlist of me talking about my health history and updates and everything like that. But briefly put, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis when I was 15 years old. So the whole thing of realizing how food is a social thing that people gather around, and there's a lot of expectations that mostly go unseen to people who it doesn't affect. I've noticed that. I mean, definitely since I was 15, but I've had a sensitive stomach my whole life, so I've kind of always noticed it. Just like the pressure to eat certain foods. Especially as a tall and skinny, lanky woman, a lot of people kind of giving me looks and thinking that I'm not eating for other reasons, or, oh, of course she's not eating, she's so skinny, or that's how she gets so skinny. Things like that, which I've always been super self-conscious around, especially since I grew up modeling too, and, you know, the stereotypes that come with that are true for good reason. I shouldn't say are true, that are mostly true. They were true for me for a good portion of time. Just body dysmorphia because of deep issues in the modeling industry and just the entertainment industry in general. But that's not what this video is about. I did make a video, I think, talking about that a little bit. I'll link that right here if you want to watch that video. You can go ahead. But first I want to define social eating. Social dining by a group of people is meeting either at someone's place or at a restaurant to enjoy a meal together. It is a philosophy of using meals specifically as means to connect with others. Eat to socialize. A brunch, a dinner, supper party are popular examples of places to socially gather over food. So if you're watching this and you also have IBD or IBS or any sensitive stomach issues, then I don't need to tell you how detrimental not being able to eat certain foods can be to your social life. If you don't suffer from one of these illnesses, it might be a little hard to understand, but it's always pain related. I guess I should speak for myself. Certain foods, it's like, I feel like I should have a t-shirt that says like, yes, I could eat that technically. If I do, I'm gonna be on the toilet all day tomorrow and I got stuff to do, so I'm not gonna eat it. That would be a really long and stupid t-shirt, but you get the point. It's not like there is this allergic reaction, I guess. It's not like I'll have these things and I'll die immediately, but if I have gluten, if I have too much sugar, if I have dairy, if I have raw fruits and vegetables, I mean, the list goes on. Anything that's like really too hard to chew, it's an issue for me. The scope of foods that I can eat that aren't an issue for me is a lot easier to explain. I mean, at this point in my life, if you know me, you know I have stomach problems. Like, I just make it a point to make this, you know, kind of a package deal with me so I don't have to explain it as much. Because explaining it is really the thing that, it's really like the mental turmoil part of it, is like every gathering you go to having to like explain why you're not eating to someone. And a lot of the times what I'll do is actually eat before I go somewhere so that I'm full and I can be like, oh, I just ate. And like, no thanks, I'm good, I just ate, like if I don't feel like explaining myself. And actually that's normally what I'll do. Or, I mean, I don't want to record this. I'm gonna take a break.
3 weeks later.
I just got back from like an 8-day long vacation, which is the longest time I've been away from home in quite a while. I didn't really have any alone time, so there was a lot of opportunity to think about social eating. Hopefully I'm not gonna cry. I wanted to wait to record this until it was a cheery day. It's been like pouring rain the past few days and now it's like sunny out and my mood feels pretty good today, so I'm hoping I'm not gonna cry. But just so you know, this was a very emotional vacation for me and I cried the most I've cried in a long time during this trip. So I'm gonna take you through it. It's kind of gonna be like a story time, and basically the story is gonna work its way up to the main lesson that I learned during this time. So I hope you enjoy. A few weeks ago, I planned to go to New York to visit my friends and then go down to Maryland to visit my sister and her little baby and husband and her whole little world down in Maryland. So the first leg of my journey included a train ride, which was pretty uneventful. I just listened to podcasts and slept. And then I arrived in New York City for the first time since last Halloween. So it's been almost a year since I've been there, which is really crazy because I lived in New York for about 6 years. I moved there when I was 17 and left at the beginning of 2021. New York was my home. I literally never thought I would ever leave, ever. I loved it so much, and I still do. But I have a whole video about it, which I will link up here and down in the description. Just my experience during 2020, and I had like 2.5 surgeries basically. Obviously it was during the pandemic, and I just felt like all signs within me and around me were just pointing to get out. Like, get out of New York. You need to, calm your nervous system. And that's the thing I think about living in New York that I realized over time was if you are geared up to the energy that is in New York, like if you are on that level, then it feeds you. And I think naturally, like without any of my illnesses, I think my personality naturally is pretty up, and it just really fueled me. I was just like, oh my God, possibilities are endless. Like 1 year felt like 5 years worth of experiences. Like I had the best time living there, and I wouldn't be surprised if I lived there maybe at some point again in the future, maybe a little outside the city, but that's not really part of the story. But so the first thing I want to say about, just this trip that I went on to New York is that I don't know that I would have felt comfortable going to visit anyone other than these particular friends of mine. Kelly and Lisa, shout out if you're watching. Hi, I love you. Or like my cousins, like if I was staying with a family member, I'm just thinking if these were just casual friends of mine, I probably wouldn't have gone. The thing that really makes trips and traveling really feel okay for me is the planning that I do, and like knowing what the situation is going to be, knowing where I'm going to be staying, knowing the environment. Like I would love to be the type of person who could just make a spontaneous trip to New York and find someone's couch to sleep on or sleep in my car. Like I would love to like be that type of person, but given my health issues, it's not really feasible for me to be that way. So planning, I think, is the most important thing when it comes to traveling, and especially if you know you're going to be with friends and in social scenarios, knowing what I'm getting myself into, knowing what the food situation is going to be like, and knowing that I have permission to rest if I need to rest. So I feel like I have permission to rest when the people I'm visiting understand my health and they get that it's unpredictable. If we're going out Friday night and we have plans to like go to the park on Saturday, I need them to understand that I might not be up for going to the park on Saturday, or I might not be up for going out. Like, I just need someone to understand that my plans could change because my health is always going to come first. And if my body is like, hell no, don't leave the bed, I'm not going to leave the bed. But it does take some training, I guess, with myself to understand whether those thoughts I have are just kind of fear, like being social or just being around other people, or if it's like real, like I'm not going to be close enough to a bathroom and I need to stay close to a bathroom. But the other thing that really helps me feel comfortable with going on trips and visiting friends like this is some sort of meal prep. A lot of the times I do pack like a tub of white rice with me, a bunch of sweet potatoes that I cook in the air fryer, usually just those two things because those are my safest foods, so that I know and just have the comfort, like worst case scenario, if I get to her house and everyone's eating pizza, I don't have to be an inconvenience to anyone. I can just heat up my rice and sweet potatoes and have that. That makes me feel a lot better because especially when I'm visiting friends, my main thought personally is I don't want to be an inconvenience when it comes to social eating. That's like the forefront thing in my head. It's tricky because I don't want to go to an Italian restaurant where I literally can't eat a single thing on the menu, but if they all want to go to an Italian restaurant, I don't want to be the buzzkill or the person who stops them from doing that. So, I mean, it really just depends on your friends and the situation, because oftentimes, like, my friends know my situation and they're not going to even think about an Italian restaurant because they know that I can't have anything. So we'll pick like an Asian restaurant or anything that has rice, basically. So my trip to New York was only 2 days, and while I was there, I got, I think, Thai food. I got pad see ew, which is like one of my favorite dishes in the world. No, I could probably confidently say that's my favorite dish in the world. I love pad see ew so much. So yeah, I had that one night and then had like eggs and potatoes for brunch the next day. The New York leg of my journey was somewhat uneventful when it comes to social eating, just because I was just kind of on autopilot and I just wasn't really thinking about it too much. So then my parents picked me up and we drove down to Maryland, which it's a long drive. I think it was like 4.5 hours from New York, but then when we drove back home, it was about 8 hours. So it was a long drive. And I think the key with road trips is either you yourself driving, and if that's the case, I literally always wear a pad or a diaper because I have shit myself while driving way too many times, like just getting stuck in traffic and really just not being near a bathroom. So that sucks, but wearing a diaper makes it a lot better. My mom is driving this trip, and my mom is just so incredible. I'm gonna be talking about her a fair amount later in this video, but my mom is just amazing, and she understands my health and my health history borderline more than I do, because it did start really young for me, and I know a lot of the time when I just like went unconscious to protect myself, she was the one like paying attention to what's going on. So my mom will stop whenever I need to, borderline more times than I need to. So the actual drive down to Maryland wasn't very eventful in the world of eating. But once I got down there, so I stayed down there for 4 or 5 days. It was my nephew's first birthday. I love him so much. And it's funny being down there now because especially when it's me, my mom, and my dad who all go down there, and then it's my sister, her husband, and their baby. So it's a weird mixture between like being in visiting mode, but also like just being at home because like, you know, we're all a family, we're all together. I had to work while I was down there. So it felt like I was like on vacation and visiting, but it also felt like I was just chilling at home and working. It was just like a funny combination of vacation mode and like non-vacation mode. So obviously on vacation, I think just in our society, an expectation that comes with being on vacation is trying new food and going out to nice restaurants, trying new places, and experimenting with like delicious foods in the area that you're visiting. And there's a lot of amazing restaurants down where my sister lives. It's something I get excited about every time I go down to visit her. I'm like, oh, we can go to that restaurant and this restaurant. And my stomach wasn't doing too great because I think honestly just the physical act of traveling is tough on the gut for normal people even. So my stomach wasn't doing too great after being in New York because I drank 2 nights in a row, which I don't usually do. I'm not a big alcohol person, but I drink it when I'm with friends and we're having fun. And just like eating at restaurants, that whole thing just had my stomach being questionable. I'm not sleeping in my bed at home, and I don't want to chance having any sort of accidents in the middle of the night, which is a pretty common occurrence for me, unfortunately. So I really want to avoid any of that. I want to avoid the possibility of that happening. So I'm just eating very safe. And there was one day, it was the day I got my period, of course, and I spent like an hour out on the deck by myself just doing yoga and crying to myself, just feeling like really, really sorry for myself. Just not in a good state of mind, which is incredibly common for the first day of my period, and it's very annoying. Just feeling like there's no solution to any problems that I have in a way. And usually after I have a crying episode, I feel a lot better afterwards. But this time I really didn't feel better. I was like on the verge of tears for the rest of the day. I felt like I didn't get it all out almost, and it's like I could burst out back into tears at any moment. So I went back into the house, and my mom was getting ready for dinner plans, and she was like, oh, we're gonna order from this restaurant that we like, but don't worry about it. You can just have like some rice and sweet potatoes. Like none of us cares, it's fine. And I was just like really pissed off by that, especially given my state of mind that day, just being on the verge of tears anyway. Just her saying so matter-of-factly like, oh, we're gonna order from this really great restaurant that you like, but don't worry, you can just make rice and sweet potatoes. None of us cares. Like that's what I heard. She probably said it nicer than that, but like that's how I translated it in my head. And I was like, I care. I care a lot. I want to eat good food from this restaurant, but I have to have freaking rice and sweet potatoes per usual, and it's really annoying, and I really care a lot about that, and I'm upset. And I was just like crying so hard just about how fucking unfair it is. And something that was really hitting me on that trip was just the reality, because I just had my birthday. I just turned 26 on August 6th, and I was diagnosed when I was 15. So the reality of this being like, it's been 11 years that I have been living like this, and just, I didn't think it was going to be like this, and my mom didn't think it was going to be like this, and we were really under the impression, like, no colon, no colitis. Like, okay, if I get my colon removed, like these doctors are telling me I need to, then I won't have colitis anymore, I'll be normal, I'll be able to eat what I want, and this won't be an issue anymore. That was my belief going into surgery when I was 18. Every once in a while, the reality just hits me of just like, damn, this is still fucking happening. I'm still dealing with this shit. Legitimate shit, pun intended. It sucks. Like, the fact that it's been 11 years of my life, formative years, from 15 to 26. I've had 6 different surgeries. I've lived with an ostomy bag. I've shit the bed more times than I can count. I've shit my pants more times than I can count. And the amount of events and, restaurant gatherings I've missed out on from being sick. The amount of times I've gone anyway and felt left out because I couldn't eat anything. Sometimes just the reality of all of that just like slams on me. And that's what happened during this trip. And I was just bawling my eyes out after my mom said that they were ordering from this restaurant and everything. And at first she was just kind of like, Ruthie, like, it's fine. We don't care. And I'm like, Mom, I care though. How do you think it feels? Just be sitting at a table with all these people eating like burgers and like delicious food. And I'm sitting here eating rice and sweet potatoes once again. Just like, story of my life. It makes me feel like left out of that experience. It makes me feel like I just get very existential sometimes, where I'm just like, how much longer is this gonna happen? Is this gonna be for the rest of my life? Will I ever get to just not think about food while I'm with people I love and, we're having dinner or lunch? Like, will I ever be able to just be? Hello? Yeah. While I was crying, having that episode of just the reality that hit of this is my life, and the thing is that when I was crying, when my mom was telling me, like, when she said the thing that really set me off of, we're going to order from this restaurant you love. You can have rice and sweet potatoes. Don't worry. We don't care. And me being like, I care. Like, that was really the interaction that set me off. And it's not like I didn't want them to order dinner. Like, if they didn't order dinner because of me, that would have made me feel even worse. Because then I'd be like, oh my God, my family isn't going to get to have this delicious food because of me. Like, I'm ruining another family gathering because of my freaking stomach or whatever. Like, that's not even an option. I don't ever want to do that. I never want my friends to like not eat pizza because I'm there, because that honestly makes me feel worse. Like, I don't want people to change their behavior to make me feel more comfortable, because that makes me feel uncomfortable. I want people to just be themselves, enjoy your time, and don't worry about me. I'll take care of myself. But it was at this particular time where I was just like, I do care. It does matter, because I want to be a part of it. I don't want to feel left out of social eating. I don't want to feel left out of enjoying meals with my family. And obviously this has a lot to do with just the state of mind I was in, because looking back on this scenario, I definitely wouldn't cry about it now, given the state I'm in today. But my mom really made me feel so much better, because as soon as I started crying, she just started hugging me and crying with me and just validating how much it sucks. And just to have someone who, like I said, borderline understands my health history more than me, to have her just take a moment to actually see me and to actually validate how much it sucks, and not try to be like, it's okay, we don't care, it's fine, don't worry about it. Like, that would have sent me deeper into, feeling isolated. And just the fact that she respected the fact that I was upset. She cried with me. She really just understands how much it sucks and just made me feel like it was okay that I was upset. And that's honestly what the main lesson of this whole trip was for me, is to succumb to the shit. Okay, actually I made a voice note talking about this, so I'm just gonna play that for you right now.
Let yourself be crushed by it, or that's what it feels like in your head, like what you're about to do. If I let this out, if I look at that, if I talk about that, if I acknowledge that it will crush me. I will be broken. I will not make it out. And doing that anyway, knowing on some level that it won't crush you. If it does, it will be a very temporary thing in the grand scheme. Just let those emotions break you down by yourself with a loved one you trust, and just see how you rebuild. It's like, imagine a little kid. They break down and cry many times a day. And usually within seconds, they're laughing and playing and having fun. And I feel like as adults, it's not appropriate to break down and cry the amount of times that kids do. You gotta hold it together. But, sometimes we do need to break down and cry. And that's okay. Because it doesn't break us. It just makes us experience even more peaks and valleys. Your highs are related to the depth of your lows. The heights of my highs are directly related to and affected by the depths of my lows.
I think that was basically all I wanted to share with the voice note. And I'll clarify it because I know that was super mumbled. But I just wanted you to hear the raw thought as it was coming to me. All of this to say that the main lesson I feel like that taught me, just crying with my mom, really breaking down about how much it fucking sucks to have to worry about what I'm eating, and just to have such a complicated relationship with food for many reasons that I haven't gone into in this video, and I don't know if I ever will. Just it's so complicated. My relationship with food is tough, and I know a lot of people have a tough relationship with food. And after I broke down and cried with my mom, and she cried with me, and it was just, we were hugging, and I just felt so validated, I felt so much better. The rest of the day, I was still somewhat on the verge of tears, but I just felt like a sense of peace and acceptance with where I'm at right now. And there's a sense that I was looking for earlier in the day where I felt like it was just so crushing, and nothing felt fair. Nothing felt like it made any sense. Nothing about my life at all. I couldn't think of one thing that made sense and was comforting. Everything just seemed so dark and just so bad. And it was amazing to actually be aware and witness the change that just crying with someone who understood made. And I know that not everyone has that. Not everyone has a really close relationship with their parents or siblings or even friends. But the lesson I really feel like I learned is just what I said in this voice note: succumbing to the pain, the deepest level of pain and suffering that you feel, not running away from it, and just letting it be there and letting whatever response come. Let yourself scream and cry all you need to, preferably with someone who you trust and love, even if it's an animal or a stuffed animal or whatever. Just really letting it out, and then reminding yourself, once the storm is cleared up a little bit, that the heights of your highs are directly related to and affected by the depths of your lows. And I searched if that was a quote, because it came to me as I was recording this voice note, and I'm like, that has to be a saying or a quote, and I couldn't find those exact words, so I give credit to my angels on that one. But that experience I had on this day was such a great illustration of that. Like, the pure depths I felt that day were just so dark and deep and painful. And once I accepted that I was there and really just let it out, I felt really, really great afterwards. And it just felt like the highs that I felt toward the end of the day were just so obviously related to me letting myself be in the depths of my lows earlier that day. And I think that's like a small example of it, but obviously this is true throughout your whole life. Like, feeling good and feeling great and happy and loved and connected and all those things, that good feeling is a contrast. If everything was good in your life, you wouldn't feel good. It would just be what it is. Like, the only reason we have good and bad is because of the opposite. Like, it is the contrast. It's the distance between your experiences that you are feeling. Like, if you're in total isolation, having a bird come to your window is like the greatest thing ever, you know? It's the contrast of your experiences is what I'm trying to say. So, like, when you're in those states where you feel like nothing has ever gone right, nothing is going right, and nothing will ever go right, just letting yourself be there for a little bit, because all feelings are temporary, and it's really scary to like allow yourself to feel those really dark feelings, but letting yourself feel them is what allows you to move through them and therefore move on to things that feel better. And I don't know, I've said this in so many videos, I think, and I say it in most of the live meditations I do, but such a good metaphor for this. I have two good metaphors for this. The moon is the greatest. In Hellenistic astrology, the moon symbolizes our body, our physical body, and the sun symbolizes our soul. And the moon does not have a light of its own. Just like our body is just matter, like it doesn't have its own source of light. But the moon reflects the light from the sun, just like our body reflects the light that's in our soul or in our spark. It's animated by our inner soul, sun, soul. Sometimes the moon is a new moon and it's completely in the dark. It's still there, but it's not reflecting any light. It's not shining light for anyone else. It's just in the dark. And sometimes it's a full moon and it's completely illuminated by the sun and it's shining light for others in the darkness and sharing its light. And we are the exact same way. And there's nothing wrong with you if you are in a new moon state. If you feel like you're in the dark, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just another cycle of life that we will move through. We're not meant to just stop and be a full moon all the time. And the other analogy I really like is, I think I thought of this a while ago. All of my thoughts are a combination of things I've heard. So just like the storm analogy, because I've heard every storm runs out of rain. And sometimes it feels like analyzing pain, not letting yourself feel it, but just kind of like analyzing it, like, why do I feel this way? Like, I should feel better. Why am I feeling so down on myself? I imagine it's like you running alongside the storm and just like the clouds are trying to pass over you, but you're just like running alongside the clouds, looking up at them and just being like, why is it raining? Like, why won't it stop raining? And letting yourself feel the pain is the equivalent of just having a seat in the rain and just closing your eyes, letting the rain be there, letting the storm come, and just watching it pass. You don't have to run alongside it and be analyzing it to figure out why it's here. Storms come sometimes, and it's not a reflection of you or anything wrong you've done or how you are as a person. It's just life. Life happens. Storms come and they go. So instead of trying to shame yourself into feeling better, which will never work, just having a seat and letting yourself feel whatever there is to be felt. I feel like I've been learning these lessons for the past 10 years of my life, but they just continually come into my life in different forms. These are all just things I really like to keep in mind when I think about social eating as someone who lives with IBD, is that yes, it sucks. It does suck. And I don't really know too many other ways to make it not suck besides what I've mentioned in this video, and I'll link the other videos where I've talked about this before. But just like simple things like food prep, being honest with the people around you, researching the restaurant you go to, picking out something you can have before, even bringing your own food to the restaurant so you can eat something with people but not eating the restaurant's food. There's a lot of different like tangible ways that you can actually help this situation with social eating. But honestly, at least for me, at least right now, most of the feelings I have in regards to socially eating with inflammatory bowel disease is emotional. It's the emotional acceptance of reality. Just being so kind to yourself has got to be like the most important thing with all this, and just understanding that you're not being punished for anything. And I think that's something my mind likes to fixate on from time to time, is just insisting that all this shit is happening to me because I did something wrong, or I deserve this on some level, or I'm just not a good enough person to have good digestion, or to have a body that functions the way it's supposed to, whatever that means. And so just being in social situations in general with a chronic illness when you're feeling sick, it's very emotional, and it's a big inner journey. I think having a chronic illness is isolating by nature, and when we are isolated, we go into these inner questions, and a lot of my time has been spent beating myself up internally. I'll be out with friends, but I'm kind of being mean to myself of why can't I eat this thing? Why can't I be normal? That's the biggest thing. Why can't I be normal? Why can't I just have normal food? Why can't I just not think about food and just go out to dinner with my friends? That is on repeat, still 11 years later. And I don't know if it's ever gonna go away, but coping with that is where I'm finding the most help at this moment in time, and just reminding myself that there's nothing wrong with me when I'm feeling bad, and it just is another stage of life I'm moving through, just another storm I gotta sit through and wait for it to pass. But it always passes. And another thing that's super comforting for me is thinking about just when you think about life in general and feeling good, there are so many times in the future that you are gonna feel good, and it's all on its way to you. When I'm depressed, I say it to myself bad times, bad things are just approaching, and I get depressed about that. But the same thing is true for good things. All the birthday parties you're gonna have in the future, all the holidays you'll celebrate, all the time with friends, concerts, dances, new pets, I don't know, just all of the things that make life so sweet and precious and worth it is on its way to you. It's coming. It's trying to get here. It might be here right now, you might look back on this time in your life and just feel this was a great time to be alive. And so just try not to get lost in the thoughts that say the opposite, because they're there, and they might always be there. As far as I can tell, I think they're always going to be there to some level. And it's just kind of counteracting that with the other side of the coin. It's not erasing the negative with positive, or having toxic positivity and just as soon as you have a negative thought, no, positive, positive, positive. It's not like that. It's just flipping the coin over. Yes, heads is there. Heads is gonna still be there when I turn the coin around and look at tails. It doesn't erase tails, but it's just turning your attention to something that makes you feel a little bit better rather than a little bit worse. And you can flip the coin back and forth, you can look at the negative today or this weekend or this week and just really be in that negative and just let yourself be there. And then you can flip the coin back to positive, and, or you can flip it back and forth throughout the day. I don't know. I just came up with that analogy. I don't know if that makes sense, but It's just not erasing any parts of the human experience. Being a new moon is not bad. Being negative is not a bad thing. It's just a descriptive term. It's just another part of life. So watch out for toxic positivity. Fuck all that shit, honestly. I can't stand it. Hey, Gracie. So I made like an hour-long video maybe 1 or 2 years ago about eating with a J pouch. So I will link that down below. There is a section that's timestamped called social eating. I know this was more personal experiences rather than like tangible tips or advice. So if you're interested in that stuff, it's on my channel too. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope there was some little helpful nugget in here that you can take away. Make sure you like and comment and subscribe or dislike. Whatever kind of engagement you have with this video is very helpful to me. So I thank you so much for doing that. You can find me on anything just by searching my name. If you'd like to join me for my live guided meditations, then follow me over on Insight Timer. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Oh, but my nails so good. Oh, also the earrings. Check them out. She's so cute. Hey, Gracie. Oh, there's Bagel. Are you waking up? Uh-oh. Is Ezzy waking up? Oh my goodness, I can't even. Look at her new car. Don't hit her, please. I don't want to play with you. It's okay. I'll play with you. Okay, bye.